So we have this audio clip again.
I know how to ride a bike.
You're going to hear this audio over and over and over. You're going to get very used to it. That is a good thing, right? And eventually we'll start to abstract. Like eventually you will start only hearing noises, right? When I was animating this, I'm thinking of a couple of different things. I'm thinking of the context, but I did the voice acting, set up the recorder, let the audio play over and over and over again, and I act out my version of that, right? That's where I'm getting most of this body animation.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay.
For me, the body animation is pretty close on this. I don't have too much left to go on this. But that means that I know exactly where the character's head is going to be in every one of these poses, right? So this is where we bring in the two different methods in which you can animate the face, okay? If we zoom in here on Malcolm's face, you'll see he's got all sorts of controls, and this is really ugly, right? This is a really ugly face setup, right? They know that. There is a lot of controls on Malcolm, and so they've made options for how you can pick all these elements. But I'm going to show you now like how to set up the anim picker for Malcolm. So you may not be using Malcolm, but this is still worthwhile on having. So ETSU E3, faculty. I went ahead and put it up in the files folder, I think. So under files, you should see this anim picker. This is something you can download for free from the anim school. Do you all have the, for those of you watching the video at home, do you have the projector went down? Do you all have WebEx up? Yeah. Okay. So go ahead and open that. Let's just do it without the projector. You'll be getting this like directly on your screen. That's annoying, but the chances that we know, like this is probably a bulb issue, but the chances that we get that fixed in the next, by next class period maybe aren't great. So let's go ahead and keep going because this is really one of the last few lectures we need to get through. And we'll have the video of it up online too, so you can watch that. So if you don't know how to open the WebEx, ETSU E3 faculty, Greg, and then it's that WebEx link there. If you just double click on that, you should be able to open it. So anybody need help getting that open? So you can enter in whatever name you need to. Okay, cool. So while that's opening, class for people later, let's talk about getting the anim picker to work because that thing is really nice. I put this under character animation files, and you'll see this anim picker file. So let's look at that really quick. We have this install file here, and if we read in this, make a new shelf button, load plugin. Okay, so what we're going to do, we can download this. If I'm not mistaken, I can just drag this into the viewport, and it's going to open this file here, right? Or this thing here, and it's going to say, where is this anim school picker plugin? I would advise you putting this under your project folder. So I currently have it in mine as well, right? And I'm just looking for the 2018 folder anim school picker MLL. If I hit open, it's actually going to create a new button up here. It's got like a little face and like a ring there. So when I click that button, it should just open up this picker tool, right? Now this thing is handy for a couple of things. This is how we can turn on and off all of Malcolm's controls. So I can turn them all on. And that's what all of his character controls look like. And that's just a mess. Like what the difference is between that one and that one and that one and that one. Like knowing that isn't easy, right? I can just toggle on the basics, right? And that's where I've been kind of working. And we can see a little bit of what that one's going to do, right? But the cool thing about this is there's also this face picker. So this thing will also allow you to click separate body parts. You can drag them and select them. You can select all the controls in the hands, FK, the head, right? So this is a nice way of picking this character. Or you can use this to pick all of the controls. You can say all, and it selects every control. So this is the best way to work with the Malcolm control. The Malcolm face rig has the same thing, right? So for example, if I want to grab the entire lower half of the face, I can just click this green button, right? If I want to select just the lips, I can click this green, or that's just the corner of the lips. I'll click just that green button, right? We got our jaw control here. And the thing I need you to recognize is even with all of these pickers, there's still additional information on each of these too. So face rigs are very hard to organize. Like everybody has different ways of organizing them, but I don't even know like how I would even start animating lip sync with Malcolm without this picker. Your character is going to have a different setup, but this is every one of them probably has a way of animating the face that's very specific. Okay. So I'm going to use this as sort of my way of picking the facial controls, right? I'm also going to do something else, and this is really handy for me, is I'm going to go back to frame 100, right? And I'm going to create a new camera. So I'm going to go to Create, Cameras, Camera, and then I'm going to look through camera 2, it's this one here, right? Until I can get over here to where Malcolm's face is like right there in the center, right? I may even go all the way back to frame 0 when he was at bind pose. That way I can just sort of get it right there on his face, right? All right, I'm moving my picker over here just so you can see this. If I open up my outliner, you'll see there's my characters, or there's my new camera, right? I'm focusing in on his face. The thing that's annoying about this, though, is if I start animating now using my picker, start animating this, and I scrub my timeline, right? Well, he moves, and that's annoying. Actually, probably one of the reasons a lot of people animate with a character like completely stationary and get all the lip sync and then move it on. There's a way of getting around this. Okay? So I'm going to grab this camera. I'm going to rename it Face Cam. And I'm going to go ahead and group it to itself. So just with the face cam selected, Control G. And so I'll go ahead and name that Face Cam Group. Right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the head control, whatever that one is. So pretty much wherever the head control is going, like all these keyframes on it, I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit Control and select the Face Cam Group. And I'm going to do, under Animation, I'm going to do Constrain and Parent. And so what that means now is that wherever this head control goes, that cam group is going to go with it. Right? So if I rotate this, you'll see I'm always looking at his face, right? No matter how messed up his face gets. Right? And in fact, once we start moving,
I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. Doing it.
So I'm always like looking directly at his face. And so now I have two references pointing at the screen that doesn't exist. I have two ways of looking at this. I have my direct, like looking straight on at him to make sure everything's like clear. And then I have the camera angle of the character's face, okay? Okay, so here comes the kind of the lecture part of this. I have a handful of images, but there are two ways of animating lip sync. And I'm going to do both of them, half in one method, the other half in the other method. So let's start here.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19.
So there's two different methods here. There's the, I had you all, for your exercise, animate the sock puppet, right? And one of the things you all probably felt from doing that, even if I just had you practice it right now, if you were like at home thinking, and like right now I'm talking and kind of sock puppeting it, right? So what you should have recognized is that most of that motion most of that communication that something is coming out of the character's mouth verbally is the jaw dropping up and down, right? And so we learned how to measure that when we were kids. Did anybody learn like a specific way to like, count your syllables when you were a kid in elementary school?
A-I-O-U.
Is it?
Yeah. Are you talking about the clapping thing?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, I don't know. I was thinking vowels. I'm
Yeah.
out of it. Okay.
No, so, have you slept?
No.
Did you send me that email yesterday that said you hadn't slept? You've slept since then, though, right? A little bit. All right. Get sleep, y'all. Not right now, but later. Huh? Yes. We can talk about that. There's like statistical proof that you become less productive.
Yeah.
So it's if you put in like, if you were to put in 16 hours of work, that is not 2 8-hour days. Like that's like an 8-hour day plus another like 3-hour day worth of actual work. So yeah, like I know it's hard, squeeze some sleep in there. Anyway, the way I personally learned to count syllables when I was in elementary school is to put your hand under your chin when you talk and count the number of times your chin drops to its lowest point, right? Every time your hand hits your chin, that should be a syllable, right? So cat, it only hits it once, right? Suburban hits it 3 times, right? So you can count your, I don't know why I chose the word suburban. So you can count your syllables that way, right? The vast majority of what we are seeing in lip sync, with stuff like the Muppets or with the sock puppet, the reason that's still communicated to us is that those syllables were correct, right? And so that's one method in which we can animate. That's actually the second one I'm going to do, right? Which is basically just animate the jaw dropping up and down, right? Every time your mouth will be open, you animate it down. Every time it's up, you animate it up. And we do the jaw as an entire pass of animation. You know what? Actually, I'll go ahead and do that for the first half. How about that? So let's go ahead and look at how that would work, right? I'm just going to grab the jaw control. I'm going to make sure there's a keyframe at the beginning and the end. And I'm just going to animate it every time the character opens his mouth, right?
It's okay. I know how to ride a bike.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it. Oh, I got to have auto key on here. I'm going to go ahead and keep it kind of high on the beginning of it because he makes that okay. Okay. So. So if we watch this now,
It's okay. I know how.
we're getting part of that.
It's okay. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So
Translate and rotate on that the same, or are they different?
now I usually use the rotate because your jaw is a hinge joint. So if you're using translate, you can like, pull it down like that. But if you're using rotate, it's all like the chin is always going to kind of rotate in an arc. So I usually use rotate. So
Will that matter if you use translate though? Like,
it will matter a little bit, but not a ton. You may be able to choose it and get it right, but I would probably try to use rotate.
It's okay, I know.
So
I know. I know. I know how to
So remember to put in like these little bitty ones too, right? So he says ride a bike. So and also notice that there's some where his mouth is completely closed. So bike, he has to completely close his mouth there. Some of that's going to be in the lips, but I want to get it closed. Okay. So if we listen to this now,
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19.
So let's watch again.
Okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to
90%
ride a
of that
bike.
out of that.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So the last part of this is like really this method is for people who don't want to try to keep too many things in their head at one time, right? Like it allows you to kind of focus on different elements. And so what we would do with this is we would animate the jaw popping up and down, and you're going to make that really good, right? You're not just going to phone in a layer of jaw popping up and down. I would go in at this point and I would adjust my layers. I would adjust my curves, make it ease out and sort of pop wider earlier, close back up, pop open. Like play with all your ease in and ease out at this pass in the graph editor. Sounds are made at different levels depending on what the sound is, right? And Parker is right that a lot of those sounds are made with the vowels just by us letting out this noise. If you think about it, really when we're talking, we're just going and one of the first things we can do to control that is opening and closing our mouth, right? Right? And that's most of the noise, right? Everything from there is us kind of shaping parts of that, right? So for example, the word shaping, that's me taking that noise and being like, I'm not going to move my vocal cords. I'm just going to let air come out and say shh. That's me making a different sound, right? To do that, it means I have to turn off those vocal cords way in the back of my throat, and I have to adjust the shape of my mouth and teeth, right? Let's say the word bad, B-A-D, right? Bad. If you think of how that happens, I close my mouth, I seal my lips, right? And I start to hum. I start to make that noise with my mouth closed, right? Right? And so I'm going to do that and pop open, so bad, right? So that is me just popping my mouth from being open to letting that noise out, bad, right? And then I'm ending it with a D. Now, I would challenge you to try to say the word bad, but keep your tongue sealed to the bottom of your mouth, right? To your bottom jaw, right? You're going to say bad, bad. Like you can't do it. The D comes from your tongue, bad, right? So what we're getting there is multiple layers of animation. The first layer is your jaw moving up and down, right? As we get closer to that, or as we get like more refining of that sound, some of those sounds are going to be shaped with our lips. So we can go next and animate a layer on our lips. Some of the other sounds are made by our teeth. So we need to make sure our teeth are closing or, like this, right? or like the bad, we gotta make sure our lips are sealed, right? And then some of them are made with our tongue, right? That's further inside of our mouth. Interesting, like, note, some of the characters I've animated in the past, we couldn't afford enough joints for the game engine to have a tongue rig. So the character has a tongue in its head, it just never moves. And I still have to try to make you believe that they're saying bad, right? So there's different layers of that. You can get all of that animation to look correctly without a moving tongue. The Muppets are yet another example of that. And then some of those noises are made at the back of the throat, right? Like, well, like the word, let's take the word lack, or lozenge, right? Like that deep L sound that's really coming just from the fact that the back of your tongue is sort of closing up your throat a little bit, like that noise. And so really what we have is this progression of layers of mouth motion that goes from your jaw and works its way backward, right? And so that's what we're going to be animating on this, is those layers as we move backward. I'll talk about this a little bit more once I get to the second method of doing this. But I need you to recognize that we have different things that the character is saying certain sounds, and we are interpreting those as words because we're really used to listening to people talk, right? You can completely understand me even though I have a southern accent, right? That means I'm not going to say all words correctly, but you're still going to, your brain is still going to interpret that and hear it as that line. So his line, I'm sure as it was written in the script, is, "It's okay, I know how to ride a bike," right? Let's listen to what he actually says.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So he's saying, "It's okay, I know how to ride a." That's not even a word, but he says it quick enough. He doesn't say how to ride a bike. He says how to ride a, right? You need to animate what you hear, not what you interpret. Okay? So the lip shapes that are going to come out of his mouth do not need to be, "I know how to ride a bike." It needs to be, "It's okay, I know how to ride a bike." Right? And sometimes the best way to do this is to write down those lines. So let's look at this in a couple of different methods. I'm actually just going to open up Notepad. You all can still see my screen, right? So let's write down what the actual first part of this line is. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike, right? That is the sentence as he is trying to say it, right? Or how it was written down, how he's thinking about it, right? What he actually says is, let's listen to it again.
It's okay, I
So
know
it's
how to ride a bike.
so it's kind of, it doesn't start with E. He doesn't start with that. He kind of starts with the T in its, right? So it's kind of like he's making the ST sound together. So it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So I'm going to write that down. So sort of a, and like, you can write this down in the way that that it makes sense to you. So I'm just going to do like a T dash, and then he's saying soak, and then capital A, soak A, right? Because he's really emphasizing that A, right? And then let's listen to that next little part he says.
Okay, I know how. Okay, yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I.
So this one probably is maybe not necessarily worth writing down, but he's not saying I. He's saying I, right? Like he's kind of stretching out that A sound a little bit. So he's saying I, right? And then we get
Know how to write. Know
So I'm going to go ahead and just do no.
how to write.
So he's taking the O at the end of that and running that right into the how. So it's no wow, like that. So no wow, derida, right?
How to ride a bike. Know how to ride a bike.
Derida. Da. Ride. Da. Bike. So the bike part kind of has that long E in the middle. So by, I don't know. This is how I would understand it writing it for myself. Writing it for myself, right? So it's okay. No, it's okay. I know how to ride a bike, right? And that's the noises that he's making. That's the noise we need to animate in the lip sync. Now, I'm going to ask you, maybe just to see if everybody's still with me, what is he really saying? Like, what is the subtext of that line, right? So this is partially what you would get when you're acting out your acting, right? Is he really concerned that, it's not necessarily that he is really trying to convince someone that like this is a knowledge he knows or whatever, right? It's almost defensive, right? It's like, you don't need to help me. So when you say, it's okay, he's basically saying, you don't need to help me. I know how to ride a bike, right? Or don't underestimate me. I've been riding a bike for a while, right? So I think that is something to, like, this one isn't apparently, this one isn't quite as strong in the subtext meaning something completely different than what the actual text means. But a lot of you will have those things, right? So let's say I always use the, like, it's okay, you all go without me, right? Like, there's so many different ways, or so many different subtexts that can mean, right? Let's say you're really annoyed by the people who are asking you, and you just want them to get out of your hair. It's like, no, it's all right, y'all go without me. Like, right? That's a completely different subtext. Like, please leave. I wish you would leave me alone, right? Versus, like, you have to write a paper and they're going to go watch Infinity Wars without you, but you got to get that paper done or you're going to fail, right? You're like, oh, no, it's all right. Y'all go ahead and go on without me, right? Like, those are different subtexts, and you would act out those scenes in different ways. So that's something else that I often will do in this stage, is I will write down the subtext line. Now, in this case, it's not necessarily that much different than what you're hearing him say, other than he is being a little bit defensive, right? Like, he's kind of being like, no, I got this. I'm a master at this, right? So, so you can write whatever you want to in yours on that. But this is a sort of an important planning part of this, right? So let's go ahead and look at this. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike thing. And so the next phase of this would be animating the mouth itself, like just the lips, okay?
Okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So for me, I just kind of use a couple of different methods. One is I can just grab the entire mouth section here. I would probably do like this, maybe that. So I'm just going to grab all of this stuff, everything except for the jaw, basically, right? And I'm going to go ahead and make a selection set out of that. So let me see.
Do you want to deselect the orange that you got?
Oh, that's there? I can. I mean, depends on really what you're, like, in all honesty, I'll probably just add the other one. So something like this. I don't have my, my tools in here selected, so actually that grabs most of it. If I just grab that. Okay, that's awesome. So this right here will grab most of my face. You're right, I'll go ahead and leave the orange parts out. So most of the keyframes I can set on these lips right through here will get most of that information for me, okay? So the first thing is to get that TS shape as he closes his mouth there. So I'm going to select all of that, hit S, and kind of get my mouth into that pose, right? So I also, like, there's a little bit of a couple of things over here on these controls we can do, including this pucker. Just gonna pucker his lips out. There's also sort of the option of sort of pinching the corners of his mouth. Unfortunately, sometimes that's on the like there's this little lip seal that will kind of do that. I have a tendency though to use, it's this corner pinch. That's what it is right here. Corner pinch in, corner pinch out. So if you use corner pinch out, you get like this little pinch of the mouth in, sort of the same there. All right. So I'm trying to get this, like that TS sound, right through there. So get all that, select it all. So the next one is this so part. So I want to make that a little bit more like O-shaped, right? One of the things I can also do, like keep in mind, like you can still go back to the jaw. I haven't really polished this jaw a ton. I'm going to go ahead and make that drop a little bit more. So a lot of that's already showing up there, and that so right, his mouth is kind of open there. But I'm going to go ahead and set a key and tweak this just a little bit more. Probably going to pull back on some of that mouth pinch. Push in on the corners just a little bit more. So maybe the end, I'll pull those back out, right? And I'm going to add just a little bit of the pucker on there, right? Just a little bit. So, oh yeah.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay,
Let me fix something really quick. For me, I need to be able to see both of these updating. So I'm going to go to my settings. And I'm going to make sure that on my time slider, my updated view is set to all. Hit save. So now when I click here, I should be able to save. So the thing I'm noticing right now is like how wide his mouth is. So I'm probably going to go ahead and move those. Maybe pull back just a touch on that pucker. So recognize now he's saying this K, right? So I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe for that. And just change all of that information on this now. So zero that out. And so I should now be able to pull the mouth corners and this thing. open, right? So let's see what that looks like. Key all of that.
It's okay, I know how to write.
That's not bad.
It's okay.
So I want to tinker with this a little bit because I'm going to really he has the same mouth shape for a while until he goes to this no part right there. So I'm going to go ahead and get that in there, but it may mess up some of this other stuff before it. So let's try that out. So the N shape means he's going to be showing a little bit more teeth, pulling back a little bit more into a smile. Maybe showing a little bit more of these bottom teeth too. Also, like, there's always this control here in the middle that allows you to kind of slide the mouth a little bit or angle the mouth a little bit just to get like a little bit more of an appealing pose. What? I don't know what this error is I'm getting there, but whatever. Let's see if that fixes it. So.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So that's not too bad now right through here. I may like tweak a little bit right in the middle just to kind of maintain some of my shapes. Like kind of keep him smiling a little bit. There we go.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So to recognize now, though, that he goes to that no part and it's in the wrong shape. So I need to get him back to that ooh shape. And I recognize that earlier I already made that shape. So I could probably try borrowing that. So select all that, middle click from there. Try putting it right there. It may be too much. Let's see. So even though it's the O shape, it doesn't look right here. Because he's saying, so that just doesn't look right in this angle. And that's one of the reasons I usually do my lip sync at this point, right? So make sure I got a key on everything. I'm going to go ahead and pull this back and probably pull some of that pucker out of there. Maybe I won't pull it back quite as much. Maybe I'll mainly just pull that pucker out. And then maybe angle this up just a little. So he also goes back to this how, like that really small ooh shape right through here. And so I'll probably do that same pucker there, but maybe push it just a little bit more on that, on these keyframes. And maybe push up his upper lip just a little bit. Maybe push up the whole mouth. So we get that, right? But the big thing is in between there. He says, how, and that sounds more like a wide O sound. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that same shape, but just sort of make this wider and make his lips open up just a little bit more. All right, so again, take out some of that pinch and probably do just a little bit more with the teeth. This. So let's watch it in this viewport here.
Okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay. I know how to ride.
So now it's the ride part, right? Because it's a wide shape. Right? I'm actually going to keep the. I'll probably go back in between here and get a little bit of a breakdown on that, but let's go ahead and make this wide here. pucker, get rid of this pinch.
Know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So I think right now that ride, he's holding that shape for a long time. But right now my lip sync is starting to go to it a little too early. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm actually just going to borrow a little bit of something from like 134, just pull it out to here. And you can always sort of play around with this, like just sort of same way you would mess around with our breakdowns. Maybe add a little bit more pinch in the first few. A little bit more pucker, maybe.
Know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So one of the things that's missing now is that bike. So we'll be talking about in the other method in which we're going to animate, we'll be talking about this, but all of those sharp consonants, buh, puh, and the muh, like M, B's, and P's, you need to make sure your lips are completely closed on those, and you need to make those hold for a minimum of 2 frames, right? So that's one of the things that will sometimes make them not read is if they go by too quickly. So I'm going to make sure that the lips are completely closed on the bike part. So I'll probably start here. Go ahead and select all of all the lips. Go ahead and push all of that as close to closed as possible. May also start pulling the corners of the mouth back just a little bit. Something else that's interesting is sort of the pucker shape in the B. So if I add just a little bit of that, it's going to make him look like he's pushing out. If I move it the other way, it's going to make him feel like he's sort of pulling it in. So I kind of like that right there. So, but the thing that's missing now is like, I need to make sure he holds that for 2 frames. It looks like he does, but just to make sure, let's go ahead and make sure both of those frames are appealing. But then when he goes to bike, like that does not look like the open bike noise, right? And some of that's because his lips are still in the same up position, right? So I'm going to still what I had over here, right here. And then he goes to bite, right? That last sound. Some of that I think his jaw needs to get back up there closed a little earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit extra to his jaw. But this mouth pass, I need to get him in that K shape, right? Or that. Now here's one of the last few things I'll say on this bit here, is that when you're animating in this way, you have to remember that like the last noise you say is not always the last shape your mouth holds, right? I know how to ride a bike, and then you just hold your mouth in that like awkward shape, that awkward smile. Like that may not work. So after you're done saying that, where does your mouth go? Sometimes I'll see people who just like close their character's mouth, but you can still just hear from the way they said it that their mouth would actually really still be open slightly. Like I don't say open and then immediately close my mouth, right? Open, right? Because that N sort of ends in sort of a, so I hang around that shape, right? So I'm not going to leave him right here. I'm going to go ahead and end this at about actually, I am going to go ahead and end everything at 148, just because I think the next little bit kicks in pretty soon, right? So So that will actually play part of that is like what's he going into next, right? So let's see how that looks.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
So that's actually working pretty well now. The other thing I want to do is I need to be able to animate his tongue. And I'll be honest, I don't remember which of these is his tongue. I think it's this control here. Right there, yeah. So his tongue is actually inside his mouth. I mean, that's where it belongs, I guess. But like there are controls in there for it, but getting in there and picking them are really hard. Your tongue doesn't move all over the place. It really only moves on T's, L's, and like maybe D's. And so like you kind of have to listen for like when we need to animate the tongue and just sort of get that little flick in there that you would actually see. And it's not going to be a ton of animation. It's just going to be enough to make it feel like the tongue is actually doing what it needs to do. So let's look at this.
Okay, I know.
So it's right there. How to ride a. So that's really the how to ride a. Like those are the only real two things I'm gonna get in there. So I'm gonna select the entire tongue control. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some little flicks in there. Now, this may not be something you even see in your animation, but it may be. So very faintly now, we should be able to see all those things.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
Ending that strong K, like I really feel like I need to get his mouth out of that pose. Like he just holds that a little too long. So I'm just going to go ahead and lower the teeth a little bit. Okay. So this is probably a good point to save. File, increment, and save.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. It's okay.
Okay. How many of you are still with me? Anybody? All right, Sean's still with me. Keep riding strong, Sean. We got this. Okay, so I want to just sort of break out of that for a minute. We're going to start talking about the second method in which we're going to animate this. This is actually the method that I use. Like I know I've chatted with a lot of people last class period. A lot of people use this method. It's actually really, both of them are really quick. In terms of like one of the leaders that I would animate in Civilization, I would spend probably 4 to 5 days on a 10-second animation, right? I would lip sync it in under 20 minutes, okay? If that gives you any idea of how much time the technical part of lip syncing takes, right? Lip syncing is actually really fast after you get good at it. I know I'm going like kind of slow through all this. So I'm going to show you another tool that actually is going to make a lot of this helpful, right? And that tool we can find just by Googling let's Google some stuff. Pose library Maya. Okay. So if you just type that, Pose library Maya, there's this Studio library, Anim Pose library for Maya, right? So right here, this is a completely free script that you have no reason whatsoever to not download, right? That's a triple negative or something. But you absolutely should download this script. Like, not downloading it, like it's just like, it's like giving away money, right? It's like you are, like, this is, I guarantee you this will save you time and it will save you effort. So I'm just going to go ahead and download it now. In fact, I'll go ahead and download it to our folder so you have it. All right. Up here, faculty. Oh, come on, this is so slow. Faculty, Greg, character animation, files, and I'll put it right here, studiolibrary.zip. So download that, save it somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and save it again. I'm going to go ahead and copy this into my work folder, like where I'm working right now. Right? I usually have a tendency to keep everything in my project folder. It just makes sense to do so. So here's my project, Lipsync Demo Malcolm, and I'll just go ahead and paste that in there. And I'm going to extract it. So extract all studio library, that sounds good. Okay, so here it is. How do we install this? So I just keep this in here in case I need to reinstall it. But the answer to install this is actually a little annoying. So to find it, you go to, oh, they put it out here. That's awesome. You used to have to dig around for it. So how to install, download and unzip Studio Library zip file. And then we're going to open the File Explorer and copy that whole folder to your Documents Maya Scripts folder. So I've saved this already. I'm going to go ahead and close it down just so this will work. Okay. And I'm going to copy this whole Studio Library folder right there to my Documents Maya Scripts. Okay. Paste that in there. Now, start Maya and run the following code in the Python script editor. It's this right here. Import Studio Library main, that thing, right? So we just copy that. I'm going to go ahead and open Maya again. Okay. And so now this is in there, right? Sorry. I was doing that thing. Just give it a second. There we go. So it's in there. Let me go ahead and open up my file. Is that the one I saved today? I guess so. Okay. Minute now, and a minute now. Okay. Okay, so as soon as this is up and running, I'm going to launch my anim picker again. Right. The last thing I'm going to do, or next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my script editor, this little button down here in the bottom corner, move this over. You'll see that we have the option for Mel or Python. If I click on this Python tab, paste that in there, highlight it, and hit Control Enter. Please choose a folder location for storing the data. So, okay. I'm going to choose my, my workspace again. So that is under faculty. For me, no, sorry, it's not. Yeah, Jim, faculty, Marlo, Greg in class. It's this Lipsync demo Malcolm, studio library. I'm going to call this one my poses, right? And hit select folder. Okay. So by itself, this thing doesn't look that impressive. Just an empty blue screen. Okay. Just remember that this exists. We're going to come back to it here in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my open up some images here for you to look at. The second method in which I animate is using what we call phonemes. So phonemes are basically these shapes that your mouth hits. So can everybody see this image on the screen? Yeah. So these shapes that your mouth hits when you're talking, right? This is an example of some of them, but like basically this is how most of the sounds that we make are made, right? So we recognize that to make or to say the sound that an A makes, like and or avocado or almond or Arnold, right? All of those are kind of a variation of the same shape. Now they're not all exactly the same, right? Try this one with me. If you're going to say snake, what's that S look like? Right, like a snake makes it sound right. Notice that the corners of your mouth go wide. Snake. So now try saying soup. Look how that S looks when you say soup. Why are those different? They're both the same sound.
Your mouth has to lead into the next letter.
Yes, so the next letter is a different letter, right? Snake is a very wide sound. Soup, that's a very narrow sound, right? So the corners of your mouth are going to lead into that. So there are different versions of these phonemes, but they are all kind of the same. So, or they're all kind of similar, right? So look at the F and the V down in the bottom corner, right? To make that sound, to make the like forever, try doing that without using your bottom lip. You have to kind of bite your bottom lip to make that sound, right? Forever. So yeah, you can do it. Like there are tricks to it. There's a really interesting one with ba and ma. Those are actually the same. Like if you turn off the sound and say and record somebody saying ba ba ba, and record somebody saying ma ma ma, they will look exactly the same, right? In fact, you can play one audio over the other, and people will believe it. Like it is completely believable. The only real difference between those two is one, you're blowing out, and the other one you're kind of like humming out, right? Or kind of like I don't know, like almost like sucking in, like ma ma ma. You're almost like pulling like air toward your mouth to get that like that suction. Whereas ba is like you're holding back air from erupting, right? Notice all of the narrow sounds, like the oo and the wa. Some of those have to do with that pinching in the corners of the mouth. So a lot of this stuff we've already seen. And the T sound has a lot of different variations, right? The, title, and thing. Like your tongue is involved in all of those, but how you like use it is different. Some of them your tongue just goes up and sort of touches the top of your mouth a little bit, like that. Some of them, you stick your tongue almost completely out of your mouth and bite it. Thing, right? Look at how you do that. Like you're pretty much biting your tongue and sticking it out. So all of these are variations, but we're going to find that a lot of different people, and I'm just going to kind of look at a whole bunch of different examples, pulled these off of Pinterest. I'm a teacher, I'm allowed to do that. So a lot of these things are just different face shapes. This is actually from Paranorman, I think. Some of the different face shapes that they hit, different poses, right? Actually, I'm really needing these here, right? So these are the symbols. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share these with you just so you can kind of see them. But these phonemes are very commonly thought of as how you speak. And in fact, the term comes from speech therapists who teach people how to speak, right? If you ever had a lisp or any form of speech therapy that you needed, they basically are teaching you how to do these correctly, right? There's a whole bunch of these in here. I'll share this with you in just a minute up on the network. And we'll come back to, here's some examples of some 3D versions of those. And this is actually from, I don't think this is Animator Survival Kit, is it? This is, I think, cartoon animation by Preston Blair, right? So you can see like some different examples of these. Now, some of these images that I have in here, I'm going to use to kind of show you examples about the different way that eyebrows work with the mouth. We'll see if we get to that today or not. Okay, so what this is for is so you can start saving out those shapes for your character, right? Now, we already have our selector here, right? Our picker. So panels, layout, side by side, and then this one is face cam. There we go. So we already have most of these things in here. I'm going to kind of slide this smaller and just start showing you how this works by animating the second half of this shot, right? Which is the
I've been doing it since I was 19. It's
I've been
okay,
doing it since I was 19.
I've been doing it since I was 19.
Okay, so let's start with that B shape, right? And I'm going to use the entire lower half of the face because I'm both going to be posing the jaw and all of the mouth and all of the tongue, right? This is why I'm able to animate fast, is after you get your library built of all these different poses, you can dial those in really quick. So let's go ahead and start making our B, right? So I have all of this selected. I'm going to hit S here. I'm going to start closing my jaw. Maybe move my lip up. Maybe take away some of that pinch and pucker. We'll go ahead and zero that out. Zero that out. Oh. Okay, I need to pull that down a little bit. I got too many things on my screen here. Let's try to see if I can. There we go. So that's not a bad B shape. Let's maybe try pulling that a little bit more. And I'm just going to try moving both of the lips up a little bit. Right. I also need to make sure, like, he's got his jaw completely closed, and that's okay. I may pull it open just a little bit more so I can close this. Can't answer that right now. I'm getting a phone call. Right. So this is not a bad B. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the controls here by clicking this button right here, and that selects all of the mouth. I'm going to go ahead and set a keyframe on that. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to create a pose in here. So you have to be careful. You always have to have the same controls selected, right? When you hit add, and I'm going to add a new pose. And what that's going to allow us to do is name this. I will go and call this B. Okay. I can make a name for it if I want to, but the other thing, and this is kind of neat, is I can click this button right here, and it'll take a screenshot of what that looks like from this camera I have activated. So I'll probably zoom in here and get a little closer. Click that again. There we go. So we can kind of see what the B looks like. Whenever we're ready for that, we hit save. And now I have that pose dialed in there, right? So let's try the next one. Do, right? So I can start making the O shape for this, right? And what I'm going to do, actually I'm going to go back here and kind of steal something that we have from back here. So maybe right here. So that's a nice O, right? Do. Let's see how it looks over here. So that's not bad. I'll select all of these keys. I'll middle drag out here to this and hit S. And let's see what that looks like. Okay. So I can create a new pose for that as well. And we'll call that the ooh pose, right? Click that button so we get a picture of it, hit save. So I'm able to dial these poses in now. So let's go ahead and save one more pose here just so we can see what I'm talking about. So it says been doing it. That's really just a slightly open jaw shape. Been. I'll maybe take away some of that pinch in the corner, some of that pucker, lower that. So this gets us a shape, right? And I'll go ahead and select all of the controls again, create this pose. This plus and then pose. Yeah. Right. Now, again, why this is it takes a little while to build up this library.
I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay. I've been doing it since I was.
So the reason we do this though is because once we have these, adding these poses back in is really easy, right? In fact, I can blend how I do this. So I could go back here and steal some of these previous poses. Let's try grabbing a nice O, or like this wide shape. That, right? I'm going to say add a new pose. We'll do right. That maybe that shape that he has right here at the beginning of it. We can add that one. Pose. Make that an S. And so I'm just dialing in all these poses. If I can get my entire list of phonemes in here, or phonemes in here, I can start dialing in these poses really quick. So one of the things I need to make sure we're in that B for longer. So if I just double click on that B pose, it'll put them in that pose. And I need to make sure I have all those controls selected. I can hit S. Right. One of the other things you can do in here is you can make it key that if you want to when you pose it. So I actually think he's not opening his mouth quite as wide. So with this method, you're just going to go through and put in every sound that you hear. Right now, every sound you think he says, but every sound you hear. Yes.
So I'm assuming these wouldn't work for another character, so this library would only help for something that we use for an extended period of time, right?
You know what happens is like a 10-second, like this audio clip I'm working on right now, I think it's only about 5 seconds. If you start using it and and saving those poses as you go, it will allow you to get closer to that pose quicker, right? So let me show you now. I have a handful of these poses, right? So he's going to say 19 here in a second. Let's see. So doing, right? I have something close to that. I have this E. So I could try dialing in all of that E, or I could do that E, or I could do like a percentage of that E, right? And then later I could grab this B where his mouth is closed, and dial in a percentage of that, and kind of get like a mix between it, and now I have a new pose, right? So this is like an N shape, right? Let's go ahead and add that one and save it. So really, yeah, it's not like, you're not going to get a benefit from this library in the first like second or so of animation, but as you start adding in those poses, like after you do the first few of those, you can start borrowing from those to add those new poses. And if you have a shot that's 10 seconds long, by the time you're a quarter of the way through that shot, you'll have most of the poses you'll need for that, right? I will also say this is a great tool. You don't have to just use it for the face, right? You can also use this for hand poses. Your character is going to hit a lot of dynamic hand poses, or a lot of different things. So yeah, this is just a nice tool to use. If you used the character you're using right now in a previous animation, you could go through and build a library from some of that stuff and use that to dial these in. But the real reason for this is because after I get a few of these done, I can get the rest of this done really quick. So I'm going to finish this up really quick. So add in some S. So it's a wide S, so it's going to be somewhere between the S and the N pose here. And then like I may get close and then just add in some more tweaks to it myself, right? Like I really want this to look like an S. Don't forget the jaw up and down movement. So make sure that on that S I need his teeth closed, but I need his lips sort of parted. So this is a different S, right? So again, I can select all of that, add, pose. We'll call this S2. Right. So we got two different S's now. So I can kind of blend between the two for this second S. So it says,
doing it.
So what I could do too is I can dial in 100% of this pose and then change it a little bit. So I'm going to do that because I don't like... There we go. Add... No. Add pose. Well, it's not a great pose for it, but all right. push those a little wider. For this end shape, right? Again, I'm saving them because like as I go along, I'm gonna really like get all sorts of different uses out of these, right? So I'm kind of blending them together, adding a little bit of this. 9. And then so you should be able to see the whole thing now. Let's see.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride 19.
I think that goes a little too close, too quick.
I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I was 19. It's okay, I
Stretch that out.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay,
So-
I know how to ride a bike.
So, the last little thing I'm going to kind of go over here is the fact that we're animating all of this in kind of a pose-to-pose way, but like there's just a lot of key poses to hit. The first time of this, I animated it more layering the jaw, the lips, the tongue, like little bits at a time on top of each other. And that layering method, we automatically get a little bit of offset because I'm just naturally not setting keys on the same exact keyframe. In this second method, we get a little bit of it feels a little bit stiffer, all right? And so one of the things I would encourage you to do on this is to not call it done at this point. We have to do one more layer of polish on this before it really starts to make sense. And so let me just show you. The corners of the mouth usually happen a little earlier than the rest of the mouth animation, right? So I can grab all of these and shift that one frame back, and I'm going to get some natural offset in that. The same with kind of this lower jaw. Sometimes these motions happen a little bit later. So let's try to see what happens if I make that happen one frame later. Sometimes that works, sometimes it messes it up. Let's see.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay,
Actually, that worked pretty well. And there's a couple of things I'm saying.
I ride a bike. I know how to ride a bike.
I think this pose here is just a little too big, so I want to pull back on that just a little bit. So one of the other things that I do is I also will go in here in the animation tab and I will do a very serious cleanup on the jaw pass. Just rotate X here. And like just little things like all of this is just up and down, right? There's no ease in and out in here. So I'll go in here and add some keys to make this like hold closed a little bit more before it before it pops open. And then maybe actually have that carry on past or just ease out of this. Like some of these are just like obviously going to be very sharp, and just sort of being conscientious of like how these poses work.
How do you just click, when you click, you add a key, how do you do that?
Key, add key tool, and then you middle click on the timeline, and it'll allow you to.
Can you like instantly drag it, or you, is it just hold middle, and it just automatically?
Yeah, if you just hold middle click and sort of drag on here on that line, it'll allow you to add that curve or add that key tool. So let's look at this now. This is very rough of what I have.
was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to. I was 19.
I feel like that jaw pops open a little too fast there. So I would probably do the opposite of what I just did there, which is hold that back a little bit longer and make it pop into it sharper, right? That's what that does.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay,
Yeah, it's working a little better.
okay, I know how to ride.
So if I, like, I use the translate instead of rotate for some reason, I can just leave that and go and get an add rotation.
What you could try doing is try copying your translate keys and pasting it onto your rotation. See what you get, because you may be able to scale those up too.
But there is some translate involved, right?
There is a little bit. Most of the translate that's involved in your jaw is your jaw sort of sliding forward and back, and side to side. You can still get some of that with rotation, the side to side with rotation, but if you want to slide forward and back, because like you kind of can slide your teeth out a little bit. So the last little bit I'm going to talk about here is sort of the difference between the upper face and the lower face, right? So I usually do like 2 more passes from here. Like after I get the lip sync working, I'll do the eyebrow pass. Some of you maybe have already posed in some eyebrow poses. Some of you maybe have already posed in some mouth poses. That's okay, right? Because you can say ooh, like smiling, or you can say ooh sneering, or you can say ooh smirking, right? That just is going to change the way you make that phoneme in there. And so don't worry about that too much. Just make it to kind of stick to that pose that you have, right? Now the eyebrows don't move a whole lot. Generally what your eyebrows do, if I select this, your eyebrows do a lot of up and down. They do a lot of this, like if you're curious, they're going to go down in the middle, or they're going to go inward toward each other a little bit. If you're surprised, they may go up, right? If you're angry, maybe the outsides will go up, the insides will go down, right? And so we're gonna be able to get like these different face poses, but your eyebrows don't move all the time. They kind of just get 3 or 4, maybe 5 poses in a lip sync piece. And so the thing I want to recognize though is sort of the difference between, sorry, it's not this one, it is, there we go, Scott McCloud. The difference between the upper face and the lower face, right? So, oh, this isn't the one I wanted. Is it over here? This is kind of it, but the difference between the upper face and the lower face is really that, like try this. If your character is just smiling, but the upper face is doing nothing, like people can actually recognize a fake smile. They've done studies on this, where if you have somebody fake a smile, or if you actually make somebody laugh and take a picture of that, like it's almost like a 90-something% success rate that people can guess which ones were genuine smiles. And it's because you don't actually see it in the eyebrows and the eyes, right? A genuine smile you do. So try this. If you smile with your eyebrows up, right, then that's like surprise. If you smile with your eyebrows down, like that's devious, right? Like that's like that's conniving, right? So like you have to recognize that it's a combination of the upper face and the lower face that give us these emotions, and so we can mix and match all of this stuff all day long until we get a whole series of different impressions, right? So when we're writing that subtext, we're going to be able to read the subtext a lot in the eyebrows, right? So I'm going to grab his eyebrows, and I'm just going to go through the entire animation and hit 3 or 4 poses. So I want him to feel like he's almost bragging, right? I know how to ride a bike, right? So I'm going to go ahead and maybe hit that pose.
I kind of like the almost like just nose spread expression. It's kind of funny, like.
Yeah, it is. So, like, imagine he's trying to impress you. I'm going to slide this whole control up. Oh, that's not what that control does, apparently.
Is that for like if you were jumping or something? Like.
Oh, this one right here? Yeah, you can get some squash and stretch in the whole head. In fact, I think there's a piece in here somewhere that allows you to stretch his head. It's his chin. I know there's one in here because I found it not too long ago. But yeah, that's kind of what that's for. So I want to go ahead and like have him raise his eyebrows. Now remember when we were talking about line of action? Your eyebrows are connected, so you want that to feel like there's a whole like they're kind of like flowing from one eyebrow to the other, right? So once we get all that in there, select all that, and I hit S. So he is kind of neutral right here, so I'm going to go ahead and give him a little bit of a starting pose here.
So I know how to ride a bike.
And then when he says, I know how to ride a bike, I'm going to have him a little bit like incredulous, right? Like he don't patronize me. I know how to ride a bike, right? Don't worry about the transition right now. I'm just trying to hit these poses. So again, eyebrows. So it's okay. I know how to ride a bike. And then like I want it to be like the end of it. I've been doing this since I was 19. Like he's like stating a fact, right? He's like very like matter of fact about that 19 part. So
Doing this since I was 19.
So push his eyebrows down, right in the middle, and then maybe move them in toward each other a little bit right through here, right? Okay, and then so the last pose, just kind of let him kind of hang out similar to that. So, but the problem with the eyebrows, like they only hit those poses, but they hit them very sharp, right? And if you look at like eyebrow changes, they may happen over like 3 or 4 frames, 5 or 6 frames. And so that's one of the reasons that I use that breakdown tool, like Animbot and A tools and stuff like that to get those. We don't have to. We can sort of borrow some of this. So I can keep most of this pose here, middle click, just drag this out here, make that first one happen kind of quickly. And then I'm going to sort of use 100% of that pose out to here.
I know how to ride the bike.
So one of the things you have to be careful with is like eyebrow changes in the middle of big head movements. I usually try to have those happen afterwards, like that way you don't lose that motion in the head movement, right? So,
Doing the thing.
and then,
This is 19.
so let's try that, see what that's like.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19.
It's like if
It's
they went
okay.
up and when it settled.
Yeah. Yeah, you can put that in there. I'm kind of doing the fast version of that, but yes, like if you wanted them to like,
I know how to ride the bike.
so like we could do like, what you're saying is like right here, sort of anticipate down into it like this to exaggerate the up. You could even like do an overshoot and like kind of settle back down into this if you wanted to. Kind of go a little past it.
I've been doing it since I was 19.
I'm gonna have those kind of do that. So same here, can anticipate up and then
19.
down there, right?
It's like,
So if we watch that now,
it's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. So,
now keep in mind like your entire eyebrow is being moved by a bunch of muscles in your forehead. And so I usually offset some of those as well. I usually have that middle control move first, right? So what I'm probably gonna do is just grab all of those
19.
and just slide those back one frame so they happen a frame earlier, right?
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay,
So the last thing I'm going to look at is the eyes. For the most part, your eyes they never stop moving, right? There's never a point where your eyes stop moving, and your eyes almost never like move in a smooth path. Like for the most part, your eyes dart all the time, right? Like they'll track to something and then they'll shift to something else, and they feel like these little like laser trackers that are just like snapping to different objects. My method of doing that is I hit the key poses where I need my character to look at something. So let's say I want him to look up at the camera at some point. In all honesty, I probably usually would put this into my posing pass. So if I want him to look at the camera right here, oh, bless you. I'm going to select the middle control there, have him kind of look up at the camera, right? So I want to make sure he's looking at the camera there. Also, like, these eyes are really kind of weird and, like, they aren't perfectly, like, symmetrical there.
I know how.
So right here, I want to be, like, kind of thinking back, like I know how to ride a bike, right? Or maybe rolling his eyes like this. Yeah, that's a little better.
I know how to ride a bike.
Stuck in my head.
Huh?
I know how to ride a bike. Dude.
Yep.
I can't say it right.
You need some sleep, Parker. Ugh.
I'm lying.
So I'm going to have him, like, meet your eyes at 19. Or, like, right here, maybe.
Pupils have a scale too?
A scale, you said?
Like so the iris can grow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it has something on there. So if we watch it now, it's not bad with them just sort of
It's
swimming
okay,
around.
I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know.
What I usually do though is I go through here and literally like every 3, 5, 7 frames, I make sure that my character is kind of holding that pose, right? So like he's slowly right now looking up. I don't really want him to do that until like right here where I have this keyframe. So maybe right here I'll kind of keep him kind of looking down. And so maybe he shifts a little bit to there, kind of holds that for a couple of frames.
I
You see how he kind of drifts over here? I don't really want that either, so I kind of keep those over here looking at the thing. But even while it's here, I still want these little bitty tiny eye darts. So I want these little bitty like that, right? So right here's a good example, like right here to this stretch here, it just drifts down. I don't want that. I want it to kind of stay up here kind of high. And then kind of dart down pretty quickly. Now these spots where the head's moving pretty quickly, you probably want to put some eye darts in there too, but you know.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. So
What was the question? Oh, if you middle click, so let's say I'm needing this key right here. If I middle click and drag my timeline, it doesn't update, so my eyes stay in that same position. So then I can just hit S. Right. So this is what I'm getting now.
okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay,
Right. And the last few things I'm going to do is I think my character needs some blinks, pretty badly. He's not really blinking at all. How do I select those? So I think it's these keyframes here. So if I choose these, I'm going to play around a little bit with the lids to get some of that with the eyebrows. So like right here, when he looks up, I'm going to have him go from here to kind of blinking. So a blink is interesting. It goes over 2 frames from open to close. It will hold that for 2 frames, right? And then over about 3 frames, it'll go back to open, right? So it's like 2 down, hold it for 2, and then 3, it'll come back open. And you can always sort of ease into that completely open pose. But once we get to here, I can kind of adjust this a little bit as well if I wanted to sort of push it over this eye. Now, a character will blink over whenever you're making a big head gesture or whenever you're making a big eye change, right? When you're looking from one side of the screen to the other. So let's go ahead and select this. He does a pretty big eye change right here, from here, which I feel like needs to be a little bit of a different pose, just a little bit. So when he goes from here to here, I'm going to have him do another blink, and sort of end on a slightly different pose too. But this blink is going to be over 2 frames. I'm going to take him to completely closed. So I can probably do that with 0. Yeah, that's not necessarily what I want. Kind of keep that for 2 frames. Maybe 3.
know how to ride a bike.
Now keep in mind, you can copy and paste these whole sections here too. Like if I decide I want to Control C, Control V, that did not work. How did that not work? Oh, well. Oh, it's because I have those frames highlighted.
know how to
Copy, paste.
bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. Okay. I was 19.
Okay.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19. It's okay, I know how to ride a bike.
Okay. So I know that this has been really long, really not exciting. I don't know. How else do I teach this? Hopefully you all have something to watch now, right? You can go back, you can watch this process. This is how I do it every day when I'm animating, right? And it took a lot of trial and error to come up with a process that makes sense to me. These two seem to work for most animators, but breaking up your face animation into lip sync, and then you can decide to do that however you want to, either the jaw and then layer the mouth in, or doing the phoneme option. Then you work your way up to the upper face, get the eyebrows, the eyes, the eye darts, the blinks. Actually, usually blinks are one of the last things I do. Blinks and eye darts are one of the last things I do. And then you're going to step away from it for a few days, come back and look at it, and try to see if it actually looks like that's what your character is saying, right? Because me just looking at it right now, some of that stuff at the beginning of the animation just doesn't look exactly right to me.
It's okay, I know how to ride a bike. I've been doing it since I was 19.
It's the I know how to part still feels like it needs a little bit of detail to me. Hopefully this is giving you enough information to be able to move forward with this. I'm going to go ahead and save this video and listen to it and see if it's even worth posting. It may be really long and muffled, and I have no idea how the audio is recording any of that stuff. But it looks like it's doing okay. I'm going to go ahead and hopefully it worked. I'll go ahead and upload that to YouTube and share the link on Band. That way you have that. I may do another video for my next class and just try to do a slightly more abridged version of it. And that way they have both videos, but more than likely it'll be something similar. So you should have them both up there. Sorry again that the monitor or the projector isn't working. I'll see what we can do about that. But I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now. Anybody have any questions or comments about any of this before I do? Huh? You need help. Okay, cool. So that was my last lecture. I'm pretty sure that that's the end of all of the lecturing I have for this class now. So for the most part, this is work time now until the end of the semester. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. Let me know if you have any questions along the way, and I'll hop around and see what I can help with. The rest of the class is yours.